I see it. Hi, Sangster.
All right, we're posted up.
Oh, there you are.
Here I am.
Your
Yeah,
face and went bye-bye, and then your mute went on.
yeah, that was intentional. I,
Oh,
I left you in the dark.
how dare you?
It's all my fault.
Cool, cool, cool. We'll give it a minute, and then we can hit the record button.
Yeah.
Share that bad boy.
Real quick, what happens if you turn off your video? I just want to see what happens.
Bang.
Beautiful. It's just letters.
Just names.
Just names and letters.
Hmm. Good testing.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a way to like make a oh, we're not showing our faces background right now.
Oh, to make it say like "be right back" or something.
Yeah.
Uh, a la Eli Manning.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, there's like a solid 10 to 15-second delay.
There is.
That's okay. You still doing the agenda? You still working on something?
I was just pulling up some stats, but
Oh,
I think we're ready.
cool.
What do you think?
I'm ready when you are,
Sick.
Mr. Michael Sangster in text.
Now I'm a
There you
person.
go. Now you're a real human.
Whoa.
All right, man. Let's hit the record button when you're ready.
Oh yeah, that's right. We need that too. To this computer.
Hello and welcome to the Warrior House Podcast, where Warrior Pride lives. I'm your host, Ryan Reingart, joined by my co-host, Mike Sangster. Thank you for joining us on episode 82 of the Warrior House Podcast. Sangster, we're live.
Yes, we're trying something new. We are broadcasting live on our YouTube channel.
First time.
First time. And if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, I would highly advise you to do so. First things we've got posted are the Wayne State fight song and one of the other ones that there are a couple of Wayne State fight songs, but then we have all of our coaching and player interviews that we've done so far are posted up there as well.
Yeah, it's pretty good. We want to figure out how to utilize our YouTube a bit more. And as we kind of migrate a little bit more towards not being in person for these for some of these recordings, we're like, what if we just went live? And as opposed to trying to get people to listen to, podcasts when we put that out, what if we just met people, right? Kind of like right where they are. So we're trying YouTube out. We're gonna see if we can toy around a little bit if people end up liking this. Maybe we'll try to pull in Instagram, maybe we'll try to pull in some other stuff if we can figure it out. But we definitely want to give people another channel to be able to kind of listen into some of this stuff at their leisure, or maybe you just like to see live stuff pop up on your Instagram or whatever you want to tune in. So please, anybody listening or watching, maybe you're watching this at a later date, let us know what you think, and we are happy to bring this to you. So with that, Sangster, episode 82, we had um a little bit of action over the last week, not a ton, and there's not a whole heck of a lot coming up. So what I think we're going to do for this episode is we're going to look back. We're going to talk about some of the events over the last week. We're going to look ahead about this couple of things we have coming up, and we're going to do all that in the first part of this episode, and then we're going to break. And then during part two of this episode, we're going to have an interview that we did with the head coach of the Wayne State baseball team, Coach Ryan Kelly.
Yeah, so getting this one underway, Wayne State women's basketball. They start out in a close loss against Parkside at home on Thursday, January 9th. Unfortunately, Parkside won this one 70-64. And this one was, I did not like this game at all, especially because it felt like Wayne State had a lot of the momentum throughout most of the game until the fourth quarter. Parkside put up a 23-point fourth quarter. Wayne State put up 11. There's your ball game right there.
Yeah, that's really what kind of decides it. I mean, it was relatively close game because Wayne State was ahead up until the fourth quarter, correct?
Yes. Yeah, and they had put up a 23-point third quarter themselves.
Yeah. So I mean, pretty good about you. But yeah, you talk about 11. I mean, just kind of looking at the box score there. It does stink that it came down to that because 23, when you're talking about a game that ended up being a total of 70 points, 23 is quite a bit to be giving up in a quarter. So coming down the stretch when you're trying to close the game out, make some things happen and just, ice the game away, if you will, kind of stings to come out of that one when you felt like that was a game that you absolutely had in your hands to be able to win. And I mean, looking at some of the stats, I would say Wayne State was a little bit lucky to be kind of ahead for most of that game, as you're just talking about. I mean, 20% from the 3-point line, 35% from the field. A good stat here is 78.9, so about 79% from the free throw line. Turnovers, again, they're kind of down a little bit lower than they have been on average throughout the season. And then you look at what Parkside did. Thank goodness they missed some free throws in there, because if that wasn't the case and Parkside didn't shoot 56.5% from the free throw line, this game could have been a whole heck of a lot closer, ending the third quarter, going over into the fourth, and it wouldn't have taken a miraculous effort from Parkside to be able to kind of take this win out in the final 10 minutes of this game.
Yeah, it's a real shame what happened. And probably if there is a positive to come out of it, it's that Shea Tripp got a double-double, 15 points, 17 rebounds.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that is something else there. I mean, kind of looking at total number of rebounds, 42 for Parkside, 41 for Wayne State. So the bottom line kind of equals out to the same. I don't really see points off of or a second chance points, I guess, would be a really good one there. And that one was pretty even. Points off of turnovers also pretty even. So like looking at a lot of this stuff across the board, like there was really no crazy difference in this game other than when it came down to it to win or lose the game, Parkside made it happen.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that stands out is Wayne State's inability to shoot the three-pointer in this game. 20%, 3 for 15. Not going to win a whole lot of games, especially against a good Parkside team. They came into this game with 4 GLIAC wins, 9 wins overall, a little bit better than we were at the time. So it is what it is. But when you have it this close to getting that win, it just didn't happen that Thursday.
Yeah, it didn't. So let's talking about the 3-point shooting contest. We're going to get on over to Saturday. So we said on Thursday that the Wayne State women's basketball team was not really hitting the three very well, closing out that game at about 20%. I think exactly 20%. That was not the case on Saturday. They shot nearly 37%, 11 for 30. From the field, they were over 50%, shot almost 90% from the free throw line, 26 free throw attempts there. And it was just an absolute offensive showing and defensive showing, if I'm going to be honest with you. This one ends up being a final score of 98-54, and the Wayne State women's basketball team wins this one over Purdue Northwest. Now, we talked a little bit about some of the stats coming into this weekend for these two teams, and Purdue Northwest was definitely one of those where we looked at this one and said, this is a game that we have to go out and win this one. And it definitely seems like that Wayne State women's team took it a little bit to heart that they lost Thursday and just did everything they could to put up as many points as they could on Saturday.
Yeah, and not only that, you were able to get just about your entire bench some quality minutes here. Every single player on the team except for Hillary Griffin has double digit point minutes played in this one.
Yeah, and that's another really nice thing. It definitely seemed like that was going to be a concentrated effort. Once we kind of started to feel like we had control of the game, get some of these other players out there because maybe not next Thursday, maybe not the Thursday after that, but going down the stretch, a lot of them are probably going to need to play, more minutes. Maybe we need to have a little bit of rest in there for some of our starters, or maybe God forbid something happens to some of them or whatever, they need a day off. Some of these players that finally got a chance to get into some pretty meaningful minutes now have full GLIAC experience, or not full GLIAC experience, but a little bit this season, pretty recent. So that's a very good thing. So I think that was another impressive thing. This ended up being such a big win when we played pretty much everybody that suited up for this game.
Yeah, and one thing with this game, it's always nice to have a boring game in the best possible way, in that you're destroying a team like we were against
Yeah.
Purdue Northwest. So it kind of got us thinking, hey, what are the highest scoring games that Wayne State has ever had? Because I knew that we went to one uh, way back a long time ago. It was a, let's see, game historical. It was a 107-point win over U of M Dearborn. Back when it was a regular season game way back in 2014. I know I've got a picture somewhere uh, on my computer of going to that one. But the largest amount of points scored in a game was a game against Temple Baptist. 2 days before New Year's in 2007, Wayne State scored 132 points. So I looked up the box score for that game. Temple Baptist scored 13.
Pretty rough.
Very
Pretty
rough.
rough.
You just think about it, like it's not in the stats, but biggest point differentials between a Wayne State and an opposing team, that's not in there. But that's the record too. I mean, there's nothing else that's going to top that.
No, there definitely isn't. So, but all that to be said, a very, good Saturday showing from the Wayne State women's basketball team. They were so close to having a sweep this weekend, and that would have been
Yep.
great. Kind of looking at the standings, those are, really two of the teams I think that they would like to beat. And it's entirely possible if we play Parkside 5 more times. We beat them all 5 times. So stinks that that's what happened, and it even stinks even more that happened on Wayne State's home court. But nonetheless, they leave the weekend with a 1-1 record, and we'll come back to what their current record is in just a moment. But that being said, the Wayne State men's basketball team was also home, same opponent. Back on Thursday, they were home against Parkside, and Wayne State wins this one 65-61 off of what I would call a pretty good offensive showing. I mean, looking at some of the stats here, 42% from the field, about 39% from the three-point line, 80% from the free throw line, 11 turnovers, maybe a smidge higher than they would hope to see. Won the rebounding game, and just ultimately kind of just an all-around good showing in this one. It was kind of funny to say that because it was only a 4-point win,
Right.
but I mean, it's what they had to do, and they were able to make it happen. So I will say, kind of looking at it, we talk a lot about the flip side, Sangster, when the opposing team gets to the free throw line a whole lot more than we do. Boy, this one was really heavily favored for Wayne State, getting 25 free throw attempts compared to Wisconsin Parkside 9.
Nine.
The
Yeah,
heck of a difference there.
very big difference. For Wayne State to come out with a win in this one, these are two very evenly matched teams in terms of record. Wayne State was down to at the end of the first half, so Wayne State had, I'd say, a really nice second half to pull ahead in this one.
Yeah, they did. And looking back at some of my notes from last week, I kind of said Parkside looks like they're having a rough shooting season, not much success from the field. That didn't really ring true in this game. They haven't rebounded extremely well. Not entirely true in this game. Kind of looking at the turnover margin, they only turned it over 8 times, and really, they played above what they have been, and they really brought what they had to in order to give them a chance to win this one. Was not enough for us Wayne State fans. Thankfully, that was the case that we were able to come away with that one for a win. And then rolling into Saturday, Purdue Northwest came to town, and we got to take them on, and Wayne State was able to win that one as well by a final score of 70 to 67. So another pretty close one there. And
Another very close one, yeah.
yeah, and some of the stats, kind of similar here. I mean, really, when you look at the percentages from the field, from the three, from the free throw line, number of turnovers, definitely dominated the rebounds in this one. I mean, it kind of felt eerily similar to that Thursday game. And even from the opposing perspective, like, Purdue Northwest shot very well from the field, nearly 50%. A little bit left to be desired from the 3-point line, but ultimately, like, it's another one of those. Wayne State did what they needed to do, statistically went out there and played how we would expect them to, and they came away with a win.
Yeah, and another one where Wayne State was able to get to the free throw line quite a bit more than their opponent did. Uh, Purdue Northwest was 6 for 8. Wayne State was 11 for 15. So it's really driving into the paint, getting those fouls if you can't get a basket. Uh, Something that really helped Wayne State in this one.
It certainly did. Because yeah, I mean, when you add those numbers up, that makes the difference in this one of a 3-point game. That number of free throws, same with the Thursday game, that makes the difference here. So if you can get the calls, if you can get in there, if you can play hard basketball, you're going to get some calls and you're going to get your chance. So really good stuff. And I know coming down the stretch in this one, free throws were a very big one. I know that the Purdue Northwest women's basketball team was kind of jeering a little bit when we were shooting free throws at the end of the game, kind of iced that one away. So fun little banter, if you will, and even more fun because we also beat the women's basketball team from Purdue Northwest. So double laugh from us.
Yeah, it is a little funny. You talk a little smack when you just got beat down by 50, but is what it is. We still won the game, so who cares at the end of
And
the
yeah, and that's what matters for us. So
day?
that's the basketball wrap up we got there, Sangster. We had two other sports happen this last week, though.
We did. We had the Denosi Open for men's and women's fencing. As you were explaining last week, this is it's not a collegiate event. It's open to the fencing clubs or individuals who, sometimes they'll get some alumni or just, like I said, other members of fencing clubs in the area to come down to the Mathi and have a fencing match.
Yeah, and I was looking a little bit at the final standings for this one. It looks like maybe we got some Detroit Mercy fencers here, but yeah, a lot of the ones are from like club fencing from around the area. So not to kind of breeze over it all, I don't really want to like kind of talk too much about what happened in that one because, at the end of the day, when that event is all wrapped up, it's a fun one. We get to
Right.
bring fencers of a lot of ages to be able to come out, compete, have fun, and kind of do that. So I think it's a really cool event that continues to happen on there. Of course, some of our fencers, who they were going up against, like I know Ludovica Mancini and Adam Maroof, I think we're both undefeated in their bouts. So really good stuff. Kind of a little bit of a warm up as we have a pretty big event coming up. I think not this weekend, but next weekend for the fencing team. So we're going to be very quickly back to them before you know it. And then last but not least, our swimming and dive team, Sangster. Now, we talked about it in the last episode. They were heading up to Grand Valley, and the Grand Valley women's team, I believe, are ranked number 5 in the country, and the men are ranked number 6 in their pools, is where we were competing. So we knew it was going to be a tough one. And no surprise, Grand Valley won both of these by quite a bit.
Lot. Yeah. That
Quite
there
a
is a
bit.
big difference between, a top six, top five team and a top 20 team. Grand Valley and Wayne State. Unfortunately, Grand Valley women won this one 215 to 84. Grand Valley men won 207 to 93.
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't really look into any of the individual events here to see if we even had any top finishers here. I actually would be interested. We should take a look really quick if you can get it pulled up and see if Julio Osuna competed in this one. I thought about maybe it was last weekend that he did not compete, and I did wonder if that was like, let's let him sit one out. Let's let him kind of, get a little bit of rest, get some practice in this week, and try to be able to see if he can get number one against Grand Valley, just to have that accolade next to him. So would be interested to see that one, and then as well as like some of the other ones. I know Wen Wadsworth is a pretty big one that we talk about, as well as like Trevor Jones and guys like that. I'm curious what you can find there.
So it looks like Julio did not compete. At least I don't
Mhm.
see him in the results. On the men's side, Warriors did get three wins. In the 3 meter dive, Max Wasiniak, 200 meter backstroke, Gabriel Arias, and 200 meter individual medley, again, Gabriel Arias. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, like no Julio Acuna in this one. And on
Interesting.
the
Well, I hope
women's,
he's not injured. I hope he's doing okay, and we can because we definitely need. You talk about Max Wasiniak. I know he's a name that we've mentioned quite a bit. But you have, Julio Osuna out there. We know that he's one of the best in the country. Definitely one of the best in the Midwest.
yeah, and on the women's side, 100 meter breaststroke winner Delaney Parker and 200 meter fly Barbara Munoz.
Okay. So a couple finishers in there, but yeah, I mean, when you talk about you're going up against, two of the best teams in the country in each of their sports at a place that they're used to practicing. I mean, that's tough sledding. So
Yep.
hopefully we learn a little bit. We got a pretty good competition. We understand that there's always room to improve. There's people out there that are just going a little bit faster, a little bit better than you on that day in particular. So
Yep.
turn around before you know what we're back at us because we'll be talking about them here in this next section that we're about to jump into. So, as I was mentioning, Sangster, usually at this point we break, we'd say, when we come back, we're going to talk about the sports coming up. We're going to jump right into that. We're going to save the break, and then we'll kind of, we'll tell you what we have coming up, even though we've already foreshadowed that. So, what do we got coming up, Sangster? We got a little bit of a late week again.
Yep. We got more of the same, really. We got women's basketball right now. Wayne State is 8-6, 3-3 in GLIAC play, and they get to go up north to Marquette to Northern Michigan University, who right now is 10-3 and 4-1 in the conference. Some notes that I see got on this one right now. Northern Michigan is slightly behind Wayne State in their scoring offense, but they make their money on defense. They only allow about 60 points per game. Uh, Wayne State does a pretty decent job of shooting the three, that Parkside game notwithstanding. But on the flip side, Northern, they do a very good job of protecting the arc.
Yeah, and looking into it, I wanted to look into who they've played so far because it is kind of funky. They've only played five conference games. So they've had Purdue Northwest and Parkside. We just played them. They also had Davenport, Grand Valley, and then their UP rivals, Michigan Tech. So, I mean, some pretty decent competition, kind of overlaps quite a bit with who Wayne State has played so far. So I think it's very fair at this point especially in the conference season, to really start to look at some of these stats and say, what can we expect from these teams? And I think, show it like Northern Michigan, the defense is really going to be the thing. I mean, if we're not able to break through and get probably quite a bit above that 60 points per game over them, it might be a little bit tough. And then looking at Saturday, heading over to Michigan Tech, as I just mentioned, Michigan Tech is currently 5-9 overall, and they're 2-4 in the conference. Same kind of a little bit of the same story here. The Michigan Tech women's basketball team offensively are a little bit behind. I think they're fifth in scoring offense in the GLIAC. I believe Northern Michigan is fourth and Wayne State is third. They're all right in line there. So offensively, they're pretty close. And then the Michigan Tech defense will give a little bit. They are definitely not to the extent, at least statistically, so far through this conference season. They're not at where Northern Michigan is. So really, that tells me that they're a close scoring game. They're going to score points and they're going to hold you to just the right amount. They're going to give a little. They're not going to overly foul or anything like that. That's kind of what it feels like to me. So um, all those things put together, Sangster, I mean, looking at the fact that the Wayne State women's basketball team is 3-3, we've done some pretty long road trips. I do like the chances of a sweep this weekend. all things considered, being that, that's a long trip up there. We've done it. It's going to be a really, really long weekend for our team, probably heading out early Thursday morning, getting up to Northern Michigan, getting warm up and playing that game, staying up there, having to get over to Michigan Tech on Saturday, and probably basically like, a red-eye trip back to Metro Detroit, or actually Midtown Detroit. That's tough. The opponents are tough. We know what those environments are like up there, man. The Yoopers take a lot of their sports very seriously, and I don't think basketball is any exception here. So, all that to be said, I still, taking all that into account, do like the chances of seeing a 2-0 weekend record from the Wayne State women's basketball team.
Yeah, I'd like to see that as well. Interesting to see what Northern Michigan is going to do. Apparently, this year they've moved back from the they were previously playing their basketball games inside their hockey arena, though it really wasn't a great setup. They've apparently renovated their previous gym, which had their volleyball team in it. They did something to it, so they're going to be moving their basketball uh, teams back there now. Interesting to see how Wayne State performs there, and also with Michigan Tech. Seeming like a little bit of a down year for them. I've always thought of them as being one of the stronger teams in the conference. Usually they always give Wayne State some fits. So to see them coming in right now at 5-9, 2-4, that's a little different, but we'll take it any day we can beat any team in the GLIAC is a good day. And definitely a great opportunity to have a Northern Michigan sweep right now.
Yeah, definitely would. So, that's women's basketball, men's basketball team currently at 7-7 overall, and they are 3-3 in the conference. Same opponents. Thursday they're heading up to Northern Michigan. Northern Michigan's 10-3 overall, 4-1, and they, similar, have shut down defense. They're giving up about 66 points per game compared to Wayne State's 20. And looking at the stats, I mean, a lot of teams are right between somewhere to like 65, 66, up to like 70 or 71 points. So that seems to be where a lot of the not the top GLIAC defensive team, but like, the big bulk of them kind of end up in there. I will say in this one, it seems like Northern Michigan is going to play a lot in the paint. They are not a big time 3-point shooting team. I don't think they shoot it on average from the 3-point line as much as most teams in the GLIAC, which means if they're scoring, it's happening in the paint, it's happening within the arc. Our bigs are going to need to step up. But we kind of saw over this last week that we don't really know what that situation looks like. Saying so, we got KJ Ardour, who has not been playing. Kareem Abarrashid has not been playing, which kind of leaves us with Calvin Tamaklo. We got Carlos Paul III, who's kind of stepping into that role. And then, interesting enough, we also have Ray Williams Jr. kind of stepping a little bit into the protect the rim role, which does not, to me, it's not that he's doing great or bad or anything at. It's just definitely not the role he's supposed to be in or that he's used to playing. So that's kind of the situation there. That's the one thing that spooks me about this is I don't know what the number 5 player for Wayne State is going to look like in this one.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. And kind of going let's just dive right into the Michigan Tech game as well. Michigan Tech, a lot of similarities to Northern Michigan, at least when it comes to record. Michigan Tech is 10-4. They are 5-1 in conference play. Uh, got on here that they shoots the three, they do it well. They have a high scoring offense. I've got it pulled up right now. Their defense is also pretty exceptional. A little worse than Northern Michigan. That could be who they play, but still, their defense they allow less points than what Wayne State scores. So see what we can do. What's funny as I'm looking at the GLIAC standings right now, Wayne State has played just about every single team correction. After this upcoming weekend, Wayne State will have played every single team that's in front of them. Uh, recall that last week, uh, on the road, they played at Lake Superior State and at Ferris. Right now, Ferris and Lake Superior State are your 1 and 2. Michigan Tech right and Northern right behind them, 3 and 4. Wayne State's right there, right now tied with Parkside at 3 and 3 in the conference. So if you want to separate, if you want to get that home GLIAC playoff game, this is where it starts. You got to go on the road and beat some teams that, hey, maybe you weren't picked to beat them during the coaches poll time, but now's the time to do it.
Yeah, and really quick, one more thing. I know we talked about the high scoring Michigan Tech offense. If I'm not mistaken, they shoot 40% from the 3 point. At least that's their stat so far for the full season.
Okay.
That is something else. Like 40%, if you are consistently hitting that, there's a reason that they've only lost one in conference play so far. So I wanted to
Yep.
throw it in that that's what we're up against. Like that's a team like I think like Max Tomaszek, something like that. One of those names. He's been around for a bit. I have to imagine he's a eighth year senior at this point and still playing for Michigan Tech, it seems like. So something to keep an eye out there. But yeah, you're correct. One of the things I didn't really look at is I have to imagine both Michigan Tech and Northern Michigan come down to Wayne State at some point. But I also know that like there's
Yeah,
like
they'll
weird
come in.
numbers about sometimes play teams will only go to or they will come to one location just by the number of teams that are in the conference.
Yeah, they'll be coming down in February, it looks like.
There you go. So we'll at least have a shot at them on our home court. So,
Yep.
even more, icing on the cake that if you can go up there and get, in my mind, statistically, I would feel comfortable. I'd feel very comfortable if we came back with a 1-1 record. I do think it's possible that we drop both of these games. I mean, these are two very good teams that are clicking right now in multiple manners. If we're able to get at least one of the wins here when they come back down, now we can start to talk about if we get both of the wins against them, we're talking 3-1 against the hardest road trip teams that we have right now. So that's kind of what I'm thinking on this one, Sangster. I don't know if you have different opinions than I do.
I don't have a different opinion, but I do have one more thing I wanted to point out. I just kind of
Mhm.
thought about it now that I've got the standings pulled up. Do you remember how many games overall Wayne State won last year? You want to get
Last, wow, I don't know. Probably, what did they get? Like
so over
13?
so overall that they won 8 games in total last year. Last year they were also five they, in the conference. Wait, this is 22-23. Okay, this is wild. The Okay, never mind that. That was 2022-2023. The GLIAC website is missing 23-24.
Gotta love the GLIAC sometimes. Yeah, they won 14 games last season, is what the
Okay,
Wayne
I
State.
was gonna say I was like 8. That didn't sound right at all.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that just kind of dishes my point because I wasn't looking at what we were at. But right now, Wayne State 7-7, 500 right now. Hey, if we could finish the season 500, that's an improvement over where we were at before. But I really think that there's a lot more to this team than what we've seen so far. And I think a lot of it has to do with who we face. We face right now some of the top opponents in the GLIAC. So once we get there, once we get to we've already faced Parkside, Purdue Northwest. We still haven't seen Davenport, Roosevelt, Saginaw Valley State. I think we've been to Grand Valley or they came here already. It was really early in the season.
Grand
But
Valley came here.
yep. So and Grand Valley's not doing too great right now. They're 2-4, and I think that was a close one. So maybe we go on the road later and we take one from them then. So
Yeah. Yeah,
overall, this Wayne State team I think is in a good spot. I think they've needed to figure some things out early in the season, but I think they're trending in the right direction now.
I completely agree. They're definitely trending towards being above where they were last season. And that is, we don't have Colin Golson. I mean, that was a huge loss.
Yeah.
I mean, just watching this team right now, they perform very well. Carmelo Harris is just somebody you can absolutely rely on. Tamario Adley as the primary ball handler is doing a great job in my opinion. I haven't really looked at some of the stats out there,
And I'm
but
pretty
from
sure
what
he was definitely out last game. He had a big thing on his shoulder.
Yes, he was out last game. That is correct. But Rob Lee Jr., I
Yep.
think he also steps into that role a little bit. Jordy Briggs kind of aside. Jordy Briggs, he's definitely still kind of figuring out. He's only a sophomore at this point, still really kind of getting a feel for it. And like I said, that the thing that's going to continue to worry me or be the deciding factor for how far this team goes is what are we doing inside the paint? Like who is going to just really own that? Who's going to be an absolute shutdown defender? I think Kelvin Tomaclo has a chance. I think he's got to kind of speed up and be a little bit more first to the ball, first one to take a step and things like that. So, but that's coming from somebody who has never really done any formal studying of basketball, just many a years of watching it and kind of knowing
Yep.
what seems to work. So before I ramble on too much longer, that's kind of the situation there. I am feeling good about the men's basketball team, hoping for good things on their Upper Peninsula trip.
Yeah, we really it'd be a real bummer if we said all this and then they don't do that on the UP trip. So we're not going to think about that anymore. What we are going to tell you about is the women's track and field team. It is still indoor season, and coming up on Friday, they've got the Findlay Alumni Classic in Findlay, Ohio. Looking at the teams that were here last year, it looks like only 3 schools were there, and there are some individuals that signed up as well. Uh, so it's looking like this is going to be a not scored event.
Yep, that's definitely if it's seeming like it's the same way as last season, but just another one of those. I haven't looked too much into the women's track and field season to know when are they actually getting into the meat of their spring schedule. I assume we're still a couple of weeks out, but I don't know for sure. The last sport we got, Sangster, back to swimming and dive. The Wayne State women's and men's swimming and dive team come back home to the Mathine Natatorium, and so does Oakland University. They could come in on Saturday at 1 p.m. God, I wish this was a 10 a.m. swim and dive event. I long for one of those. But Oakland comes to town, and they're usually an opponent that we go up against at least once a year. It seems like maybe we do a home and home series with them. I don't know for sure. But usually a pretty good one. We perform very well against Oakland. No surprise. We know the quality of our swimming and dive programs. So we know that Oakland's, pretty decent themselves. So definitely a cool one that we get to go up against a D1 opponent from just up the road and kind of get that out of the way, get a little bit of extra practice in there.
And that kind of wraps it up.
That does. That is all we have. So, as mentioned, we are going to podcast wise take a break. When we come back from the break, we're going to be airing the interview that we had with Coach Ryan Kelly, who is the head coach of the Wayne State baseball team. We talk about a number of things. I believe you said we're a little bit under a month away from the start of that, Sangster.
Yep, February 7th in
Like Kentucky or somewhere, probably.
yeah, somewhere warm. Definitely
Yeah.
not here. Not
Yeah,
not
it's
yet.
usually like Kentucky, South Carolina, Florida, somewhere around there.
Yep, in South Carolina.
Told you.
Yep. And so just for the people so they can know, the opening day at Wayne State will be gotta get past Lakeland. That's Hammond. Tuesday, April 1st, a home game against Findlay.
I assume 1 p.m.
3 p.m. actually.
Oh, there we go.
Interesting. Hopefully there's enough daylight, but yeah, home, uh, yeah, Wayne State opening day home opener. Funny enough, they actually go close. They go to Mason, Ohio, and they'll be facing Ohio Dominican
Hmm.
in February, which unless it's like an indoor facility, that sounds awful. It is not. It is outside in
Ooh.
February
Well,
in
thank goodness
Ohio.
it's Southern Ohio, so maybe you get a little bit more balmy down there.
Maybe. It is, let's see. Mason, Ohio is oh, it's right by Kings Island.
Oh, there you
I've never
go.
been there. So just north of Cincinnati.
So it'd be a little bit better than here, a
Yep.
little bit. So again, we're going to take a quick break for you podcast folks. Listen in, please. It was absolute pleasure getting to interview Ryan Kelly. It was the first time we've gotten a chance to formally talk with him. But with that being said, Sangster, that is all you and I have for episode 82 of the Warrior House podcast.
And remember, it's always a great day to be a Wayne State Warrior.
Nice.
Sick.
Yeah, man. That's pretty
Goodbye,
good.
people on YouTube.
Bye, folks, especially watching this in the future.